Sneako is a lost cause.
A lot of white supremacists actually did like him because he was also advocating for segregation.
White supremacists did not like Malcolm X. Get the out of here.
So many white supremacists are like, oh, this guy wants them to be by themselves? Okay, cool, let's embrace him.
That dude is a hypocrite, a walking contradiction, and really an op to black people and all minorities.
America should remain a white majority country.
And I think a lot of that really came through in this conversation, debate, sometimes argument that Abba and Sneako just had.
You are advocating for people whilst aligning yourself with people that are gonna hurt your folks. A lot of people in your circle oftentimes perpetuate a lot of anti-black rhetoric, or they say a lot of racist shit. That's the truth. Their political worldview is one that in which their group benefits and other folks are hurt. That's the people that you surround yourself with.
And I'm really appreciative of Abba for calling him out for that hypocrisy in real time.
Nick Fuentes wants a white power structure. He's someone who would prefer that white folks are in charge of America and wants to maintain their control over the power.
White majority. It wants it to be, he wants to lower immigration and keep it as a white majority country.
He just doesn't want white majority. He also wants a white power structure. He wants white folks to be in those positions.
But I'm Jew. Welcome to the channel. Please like and share the video. Don't forget to sub. Now, let's get into it.
How did Malcolm X play a role in your faith journey?
I read the Malcolm X autobiography when I was about 11 or 12 years old. Maybe 10. My dad gave me that book, and I love the cover of it. The cover looks really dope.
I know I read the autobiography of Malcolm X for the first time when I was younger. It was 2 books my cousin gave to me, that and From Niggas to Gods. But the autobiography of Malcolm X definitely changed my life. Just how serious Malcolm X was about uplifting the black community, how dedicated he was to reading and intellectualism, how disciplined he was with himself and his faith.
And Malcolm X was a pimp. Malcolm X was a criminal. He was a drug dealer. He was...
His name was Red, right?
Detroit Red.
Detroit Red.
Yeah. He was named Detroit Red because there were 2 Reds in Harlem at the time. It was Red Fox, the comedian, and then Malcolm X, who was called Red, but they called him Detroit Red because of that.
Because he had red hair. He was also mixed, too, so I related to that a bit.
Context. His mother was really, really light-skinned. She was from the West Indies. Her mother was by a white man. And I think his mother hated white people because of that. But Malcolm X's father was a big black American dude. His father did not marry a white woman or anything like that. Just context.
His father was a black nationalist and was speaking up against the KKK, and I think he was murdered by the KKK, his father.
He absolutely was murdered by the KKK. I think they put him on the train track, and because of the way he died, the insurance companies wouldn't pay out his life insurance, so his mother ended up really depressed. The kids ended up orphans. I think his mother actually was in a mental institution until she died. I think. I could be wrong, but I think so.
Obviously, he grew up with a lot of hatred towards white people in his heart, and you can understand why. Like, his story is just like, you completely get why he had that anger, but he reverted to Islam. Well, the Nation of Islam in jail. And when he was in jail, he became educated.
He read the whole entire dictionary from front to back, every single word in the dictionary. And the first word he read in the dictionary was aardvark. I don't know why I remember that. And he read so much in prison, in his cell with bad lighting. He would read at night with the little bit of light there was, that his eyes ended up going bad, and he needed glasses after that. If you've never read the autobiography of Malcolm X, who was written by Alex Haley, who also created Roots, you have to read it. It's so inspiring. And even if you watch the movie, the Spike Lee joint, it's still amazing. Which I don't understand. If Sneako read that book and Malcolm X changed his life so much, how he could be aligned with white supremacists, MAGA, America First, Nick Fuentes, and Myron, because they go against every single thing that Malcolm X stood for. Malcolm X was about the betterment of black people. Malcolm X was about uplifting black people, us being independent, and the black dollar circulating in the black community. He wanted to uplift us economically. He would be against everything that Sneako stands for other than Islam.
Dressing differently, he started speaking differently. He upgraded him, he ascended. Somebody that was really well-respected, well-spoken, and a great speaker. Then there's the final journey of his arc, like, because the Nation of Islam is somewhat cultish. I don't want to disrespect them, but they do somewhat worship Elijah Muhammad, who they say is a false prophet. In Islam, we don't believe in Elijah Muhammad. This is has nothing to do with Islam.
Right.
He went to Mecca, and during he went to Hajj, and during Hajj, he was standing side by side and praying, because as Muslims, we stand shoulder to shoulder with people when we pray. And he would share food afterwards, after the prayer. They're, he was sitting down, they're eating, and he's eating next to white people. And he realized there, standing side by side, that we're all brothers. That it's not based off skin color. God judges us based off of our works and what we do and how we are, what's in our heart. And he denounced the Nation of Islam, and soon later he was assassinated. I really loved that book. Loved seeing his life story, the way he wrote, and also that transformation.
How can you love that book and then align yourself with white supremacy?
So most of his time politically, a lot of white supremacists actually did like him because he was also advocating for segregation.
White supremacists did not like Malcolm X. Get the fuck out of here. Sneako does not know black history. He doesn't like black people for real. White supremacists, the white community as a whole, was afraid of Malcolm X, which is why they had Malcolm X and Martin Luther King under surveillance by the FBI at all times. At that time, the whole entire system was against black people. Black people were still still fighting for rights. So any progress that black people made was super harmful to the white supremacist cause. Malcolm X wanted to have the black community uplifted and be self-sufficient, where the black dollar could not only sustain the black community, but also lift it up. He didn't want influence by the government or the white communities. But Sneako was dead wrong to say white supremacists like Malcolm X, because white supremacists want to keep black people down. They want to remove our rights. They want to limit any opportunity that we have to better ourselves with education or to better our community economically.
Eventually, he was preaching for unity towards the end, right after Mecca. But beforehand, he wanted segregation. White supremacists were like, oh yeah, us too, each other, that we need to get rid of this mindset that's holding us back. He was trying to uplift and trying to adopt the same ideology that white people had for black people.
Malcolm X never adopted any ideology that white people or the white community had for black people.
I know Malcolm X definitely leaned towards democratic socialism and communism. Malcolm X, he was very critical of Zionism as well, but I would say he didn't really tap into, from my understanding, his books and his speeches, it was mostly about how black people should work together.
Even when you say like white supremacists kind of like that, I don't think that's a very accurate retelling.
At all.
He wanted a space that was safe for black folks. The idea of white supremacists wasn't one in which black people had freedom and safety or segregation, and that they were separated, it's that they were treated as second-class citizen and their privileged position in society was maintained. So I kind of reject that idea that what you described at the end there in terms of, I do agree that there was some aspect of separation, but segregation, especially in that time, there's no way that they were aligned in that.
There were definitely differences, but what they agreed upon is some aspects of segregation. Obviously, the white supremacists were probably saying, right, second-class citizens, but Malcolm X was also advocating for segregation. Not the same way, but there was an overlap. He wanted the best. He wanted black people to work for themselves. And so many white supremacists were like, oh, this guy wants them to be by themselves? Okay, cool. Let's embrace him.
I just have to reiterate, white supremacists, racist white people, the majority of white people during that time never embraced Malcolm X, never supported Malcolm X, were super opposed to Malcolm X, and were afraid of him. And if that's how Sneako interprets white supremacists and Malcolm X, says a lot about Sneako's mentality of why he could say he cares about communities of color. He doesn't care about black people, but why he cares about Filipinos or Haitians, but aligns himself with white supremacists. If these people got their way, any people of color would be subservient to white people. And that's not what Malcolm X wanted. That's not what Martin Luther King wanted.
If Malcolm X existed today, what do you think he would think of you?
Sellout. Fucking sellout. He will be against all of Sneako's alliances, friendships. He will be against Sneako's hypocrisy and contradictions. Oh my God, and his alignment to white supremacists.
He would disagree with my alignment with some people.
Duh.
I think he would be critical about the overlap that I have with
white supremacy.
And I think he would, well, it depends on which Malcolm X.
Talk about post Nation of Islam, because I think that's the most evolved or the most learned person. So
I think he would disagree with Nick Fuentes a lot.
And Marvin, he despised black leaders that bowed down to white supremacy. He spoke out about black leaders just as much as he spoke out about white supremacists.
Definitely point out some of the allies I keep and say that that's imperfect.
Sneako is aligned with people that want a white Christian nationalist country. Only white people in the country, and any minorities left in the country will be subservient to white people. Their rights will be stricter and their opportunities will be limited. He would be opposed to all of that.
I think it's very valuable to have friends and allies that may not agree with you completely, because it shows that we can exist in the liberal democracy that's also the Christian nation of America without being terrorist, horrible people that they try so hard to claim we are.
The friends and people that he's speaking about, the alliances he has with Nick Fuentes, with Myron, and MAGA, America First, the Groypers, they don't want equality for us. They don't want to uplift us. They want to keep foot on neck, black community and every other minority community down. So any support of white supremacists, any support of that side is going against your own community. It's going against minority communities.
And I know you don't view him that way, but to me, I view Nick Fuentes in that direction. Wants a white power structure. He's someone who would prefer that white folks are in charge of America and wants to maintain their control over the power.
White majority. It wants it to be. He wants to lower immigration and keep it as a white majority country.
He just doesn't want white majority. He also wants a white power structure. When he talks about positions of power, he clearly states that he wants white folks to be in those positions for the most part.
Majority white, ran by white people.
Which is, I mean, that's how America was created. You can kind of see that because America is no longer the world power it was. And it started off as a majority white country with white people in charge. America should should remain a white majority country.
Yeah, yeah, and also that white folks should be the ones in power.
That white should be the ones. No, not necessarily that white people need to be the ones in power, but I understand the necessity for pride in this country.
I don't care about white pride. That's not what the core. He's not a white pride activist. He's a political pundit who actually is part of a political movement, and they want to effectuate political change. So he advocates for a white power structure in which whites are the majority of those in charge.
And Nick Fuentes is against women even having a place in government. He's one of those people that basically believes women should be out of politics altogether, like not even have the right to vote type thing, kind of like pearly things.
I'm saying I understand wanting America to maintain its white majority when immigration is the cause of so many issues happening right now. For maintaining a white majority where immigrants come in to assimilate rather than dominate.
For as racist and depraved as this country has been toward people of color, for him to say that this country is better off staying that way to keep its identity of white superiority is the most Uncle Ruckus shit ever. Like, you would give up 60 years of progress. You would give up what black people fought and marched for, which is our civil rights, which is all the rights that all immigrants, all people of color enjoy when they come to this country. Because you want to make racist white people happy, because you want to keep this country a white majority.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I mean, he was working on Ye's camp. Ye was running for president.
Nick Fuentes has a black friend, so he's not racist. That's what all that's what all racists do.
Saying your audience is racist, therefore it's your fault that they're racist, is not a fair criticism.
Why?
Because I'm not responsible for the beliefs of everybody that watches my content.
Right, but you do have control over how you curate things and the kind of people you attract, no?
If you're making content that racists gravitate toward, and you know it, it is your
The
fault.
one that's threatening that power structure the most. So if we can align with that, if we can ally on that, I see that as the best use of my whatever political influence.
So you think it's more important to align yourself with potentially anybody and then fight against this issue? That's what you're saying?
The most important issue in America right now is getting rid of AIPAC, that's not listed as a foreign agent, and the Israeli influence that's all over America.
I would disagree that that's the most important thing, and I would disagree that how you do it doesn't, like, if I align with myself with some people whose political worldview being actualized would harm my people, I just wouldn't do it.
Right.
While I may be defeating a problem there, I may be kicking a huger problem for me and my family or my people down the road. In aligning yourself with some of these folks, you are also partially legitimizing the very people who will attack Haitians. I mean, Nick Fuentes has got enough clips where they said, what about the Haitians, and you trying to defend them?
You're aligning yourself with the group of people in the movement that if they get their way, they will stay in power and everybody else will lose their rights and opportunities.
Like, you're not going to get more freedoms for Muslims. You're not going to get more respect or ethical behavior towards Haitians if these people get their political worldview enacted. And so I just have a hard time understanding how you could advocate for these people and really feel like you're defending them, and at the same time help promote people whose world political view harms your folks.
They promote mine as well. I mean, look, so your disagreement is...
Sneako is one of those people that listens to respond and not to understand. He didn't take 2 seconds to think about what Abba just said or answer the question directly, and he's going to talk around it. Abba was 100% correct. The people that Sneako is advocating for, that he's working with, that he's helping and supporting, if they got their way, it would hurt every other community except the white community, including the Muslim community. I just don't get it.
Operating with people that we disagree with right now, we're doing a stream together. It's like we disagree. What are we promoting each other, even though you're pro Pride Parade and I'm not?
No, my point is not that you disagree with somebody. My point is that oftentimes, even when you're doing streams with these people, you guys are not actively having debates where you guys are trying to disagree on the points that are important. A lot of it is just you guys enjoying each other's company and really helping to promote each other's events and different things like that. So you have to understand, you're not just here with someone you disagree with. You're here with somebody that you disagree with, but you're also normalizing to your audience, and you're also helping to promote to more people. So there is a nefarious aspect to it in which they grow and they get stronger, and by their political strength end up hurting your people.
100%.
And I don't even think what I'm saying is that crazy, because like even earlier, I think you said that if Malcolm X was alive today, the person you admire, he would look at you some type of way for the people you are with.
Yeah, I reiterated. One, I don't know what you're talking about with Nick saying that Muslims should be persecuted. And two, the one who is providing the most amount of persecution towards Muslims is Netanyahu in Israel, who, I don't know if we both agree, controls America. They're in charge, and they have been ones pushing the propaganda, publicly saying they're giving influencers $7K to push this. right? Whenever they try to cover up for the genocide in Palestine, they ramp up the hatred towards Muslims.
This could be 100% factual, right? But anytime I hear this, when we're talking about issues in America, when we're talking about who the greater enemy is, as far as a black person, I can only speak for myself. I'm not the voice of the black community. But racist white people, white supremacy is my problem. That is my major concern, and how it impacts the black community through actions, through policies, through rhetoric, through propaganda, through limiting opportunities, through black erasure. White supremacy and racism is still a battle that black people have been fighting since slavery. So to say that our primary concern should be Israel's influence, it reminds me of the Muhammad Ali speech where he refused to go to Vietnam.
If I'm gonna die, I'll die now, right here fighting you. If I'm gonna die, you my enemy. My enemy is the white people, not Viet Congs or Chinese or Japanese. You my opposer when I want freedom. You my opposer when I want justice. You my opposer when I want equality. And you want me to go somewhere and fight, but you won't even stand up for me here at home.
Working with people and helping to make them more popular and more normalized, and that their worldview hurts your folks. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you aligning with Christians about the Jewish stuff. That's perfectly fine.
But you could say the same thing about Nick Fuentes. Like they have the same criticism towards him. They say, a lot of them say I'm a brown clown. Sneako's a radical Islamist. You're amplifying him.
You can't say the same thing about Nick Fuentes, because Sneako is not pushing any policy or ideology that will hurt white people. Even if they don't agree on certain points, Sneako is still in support of a white Christian country. He's in support of white Christian nationalists. He's in support of white supremacy. Even if Sneako got his way and Israel's influence is completely removed from this country and all the countries around the world, it wouldn't hurt Nick Fuentes. Whereas if Nick Fuentes got his way, it would hurt minority community. This is such a useful, idiot, willfully ignorant, fake, naive-ass argument that he's having.
All more popular than me currently, and we still collaborate all the time. But this is what the content is. You could talk to people that you disagree with. I'm friends with people that I disagree with. So what you're saying is I shouldn't amplify people who I disagree. I mean,
no, you shouldn't amplify racist ass people that want the destruction of your people and all people with brown skin that look like you, that want to subjugate us, that think we're subhuman. That's who you shouldn't be amplifying, which is everything that Nick Fuentes talks about. This is very manipulative, deceptive, and fake naive, that he doesn't understand the influence that Nick Fuentes has.
I don't see a growing Muslim power structure, so there's no threat. So I think for him to actually remain friends with you doesn't actually threaten anything that he's doing. But on the other hand, it's completely different.
Yep.
If the groypers or if the people who really align with the extreme parts of MAGA get to expand their powers, absolutely you're going to see things happen to Muslims in this country. And actually, in fact,
what?
Well, you already saw it. Even with Israel-Palestine, who has legitimized Israel more than this Trump administration? If you align yourself with the MAGA folks, which you don't, but let's say you did, and you're constantly promoting them, and you're doing collabs with them, they get popular, they get to power. What ends up happening? Well, you're seeing the effects on Muslims, either in foreign countries, you're seeing the benefits to certain groups, right? You are part of that thing that ends up hurting the folks that you claim to care about. In that same token, if his political movement gets to grow, okay, it'll be at the expense, it'll be into the benefit of white folks, but it'll be at the
expense of everybody else.
Of the Haitians. It'll be at the expense of the Muslims. They won't allow you the religious freedoms. They won't allow you the religious freedoms that you're asking. You think the groypers are gonna allow for you?
That there should be.
Do you think the groypers are gonna allow for you to do your Muslim prayer in Times Square?
Okay. At no point did he ever say that there shouldn't be Muslims that exist in America. In fact, I think it benefits having a Christian in charge that doesn't have allegiance to Israel, because America does have religious freedom, and the core American values allows for people to practice things freely. So if we follow American doctrine, this makes it a safer place for Muslims than it does for the current power structure that's run by Israelis. Also, I'm not a fan of division, right? I want unity. I want what Malcolm X wanted. I want Christians and Muslims to be able to coexist.
Malcolm X wanted to protect and elevate black people. All the other things came secondary to that.
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that if Muslims, through their own choices decide, they were having kids, because, Muslims generally have more kids.
If they grow and they become a majority.
After generation, more Muslims were having kids. Do you think that they would stop that from happening?
No.
Why would you think that when I gave the example of Black Americans who have even more claim to this country, outpacing the white folks, he had an issue with that, and that's not something we would accept? Why do you think they would accept it from Muslims?
I said earlier, I answered that there shouldn't be force control. There shouldn't be anybody stopping from black people from reproducing.
I'm asking you what they think, the people that you're helping to promote. I'm asking you what you think their worldview is.
No, I do not think groypers or Nick Fuentes would force black people to stop having children. I think that they would lower amount of immigration coming up, but I don't think, no.
So they would just allow themselves to be erased by the reproducing black folks.
He's absolutely lying and being disingenuous. This is what this whole great replacement theory fear is that they've concocted, which is 100% bullshit, that there's a big conspiracy to erase white people. That's why they're up in arms. That's why they're erasing black history. That's why they're trying to limit immigration and roll back time to a pre-civil rights era so that they can maintain control of a country that they may not be a majority in the very near future.
I think that they would encourage white people to have more children and try to compete in that realm. And maybe things like pride parades would stop being celebrated, and then more normal relationships where children are being produced would be encouraged. And there would be more of a push to have an actual nuclear family.
I think this is an incredibly good faith interpretation. I think it's very charitable. I don't think the rhetoric I've seen from the right and from what I see from groupers really reflects that for me personally.
Willfully ignorant.
What do you think is the number one important issue? Well, you're Canadian, but what's the number one most important issue to address right now in America?
The affordability crisis, the job losses, the economy.
Listen, as a Canadian, like, here's the thing.
The fucking cost of living, not being able to afford groceries or pay rent or pay bills. The massive layoffs that are happening. They were talking about 50-year mortgages. The economy is fucked. That is people's biggest problem.
For me, my top concern right now in the world is twofold. One, it's the affordability crisis. I think that's just growing by the day. I think as job opportunities are disappearing, people are getting more and more lost and worried about their future. So that's my number one priority and my number one issue.
So why is there an affordability crisis in America?
Because inflation, tariffs, bad policy, this administration breaking trade deals, turning all of our allies against us, never handling inflation.
A bit of a crossroads. I think AI and a lot of that stuff, I think it's impacting the
AI taking jobs.
I also think economically speaking, this own administration has done a lot of harm to its own economy. Why do you think? I feel like you might know more than me.
He's going to say the Jews.
So the reason that there's an affordability crisis is AI and the economy?
Well, I think the way that they've hampered their own industry.
He's being so disingenuous. So he's going to try to knock down every point that Alba made, which is accurate for the most part. And then he's going to tie it back to the Jews or to Israel. Watch.
I think some of the investment choices that have been made, I think
Investments, okay.
the world economy in general and America itself. I think you're seeing a loss of jobs. I think jobs now are completely down than they were almost a year ago, and they're still going down. So obviously the job market is just fucking in the toilet in that regard. It's an important issue, affordability.
Affordability, okay.
Yes.
And so the reasons you listed were AI and investments, right? Like the spending budget, where our money's going.
I just want to tell y'all, this was a 3-hour conversation. This is a 3-hour debate of listening to Sneako just babble and not answer questions directly and not admit facts and ignore that he's friends with white supremacists. I'm fucking tired. I want to go upstairs and lay down. I don't want to hear Sneako talk anymore. I think I hate Sneako.
If you're asking me the causes,
Well, most of them-
I have enough humility to say this. If you're asking me the causes, I can't tell you why. It's not something I'm well read enough to even point to sources, okay?
Then I don't think it's fair for you to be like overly so critical about who I'm aligning with and what the repercussions are, what the future's going to happen. If you have your very strong opinions about my platform and what I'm going to do, while also admitting that you don't know what the main issue is.
Anybody should be able to call out Sneako aligning with racists and white supremacists.
Me and my platform, but not strong opinions about the country.
Super easy. I don't critique you about your points about affordability. I think there's also the rise in fascism and right-wing groups that are incredibly extreme. I think there's a rise in that. There's a rise in this kind of politics where it's going to be stripping people of their rights. And that's something that I might know more about. And I think it's not the number one issue, which is what you asked me about, but it is an issue. And that's something I think you play a part in.
Number one's affordability. We're at this place because military spending is the number one. That's where the budget majority goes. 70% of our budget is towards the military industrial complex. Where is the military fighting wars? Why is this so expensive?
So he's completely removing the Trump administration, ending trade deals that benefited the U.S. He's completely removing Trump tariffs, hurting the economy, bankrupting farmers, price of everything going up because of policy choices, because of inflation, people not being able to afford homes anymore because home prices keep increasing, but salaries haven't increased, which means everything else costs more, but people are making the same that they made before inflation and the cost of living shot up.
Okay, if you're asking me these questions and I say I don't know, I don't know. I don't know what that has to do with my criticisms of you and what you were saying earlier. What does this have to do with that?
Because you're criticizing my worldview and who I'm aligning with politically, and I'm explaining to you what the most important issue is to me, right? So you have strong opinions about that while also admitting that you don't have strong opinions about what you think the solution should be.
I'm not criticizing your worldview though.
I'm trying to figure. Okay, so but you scrutinize my worldview. I'm trying to figure out yours. You said the biggest issue is affordability. I'm trying to tell you why that is. Why there's an affordability crisis. Sam Altman is the owner of ChatGPT. He's a gay Jew. Netanyahu has said publicly how they're using LLMs and how they're programming it to fit their agenda. The reason that AI is replacing these jobs so quickly, we have to look at who's behind it and who's controlling it.
So Sneako is very critical of black people, of the black community, like I said before. He says we have a victim mentality and we blame everything on the man. When in fact, white people were slave owners. The federal government created policies to limit black opportunities, to hold black people down. He says we complain, have a victim mentality and blame everything on the man. He's doing the same exact thing. He's saying that every problem in the world, in America, is created by the Jews. They are the man that Sneako is speaking about now. So the same way he criticizes black people, he's doing the same exact thing.
The Rothschilds, they are the ones who bought the land and were able to make the trade deal with England to displace Palestinians and to start Israel. Israel is connected. Israel exists because of the Rothschilds.
See, I would agree with you if I believed that that was true or if I knew that was true. I don't. So that's why I don't put it up there. Now, if it turns out to be true, then we can have a different discussion, but I don't believe that or I don't know that to be true. My criticism of you is how you're engaging with facts and how you determine something to be a fact when you repeat it, your definition of investigative journalism, your idea of caring for people and thinking about the rights of fellow Muslims or fellow Haitians or whatever, and then also aligning yourself with people who would probably harm that. These are criticisms that are very pointed and very specific. And then you're pointing me to the economy and then Israel's influence. Are you trying to say I'm ignorant on Israel and you think it's more important to align yourself with these people who are against Israel, even if it hurts your own people?
That is 100% what he's saying.
That it hurts my own people. I think that there's more of a benefit than Israel being in control right now. And my second point is that I think you should redirect the energy that you spent. You've brought up so many clips of over the years of things I've said, of debates, of my career. That would be better invested into the power structures and into the main concern. You said the main concern in the West right now is the affordability crisis. If you had invested the time you spent on investigating me into why there's an affordability crisis, that'd be a better use of your platform.
Sneako just sassed Abba and told him in the most worded way possible to get off his dick. You gonna take that, Abba? He told that man what to do with his free time and his platform.
You should apply that same criticism towards me, towards what's going on in the world.
Oh, no, because there's other people who do that, and I trust do it, and I'm good with them. I want to focus in on the things that I'm interested in, that I feel like are in my purview, and that I have a genuine want for.
Nobody is obligated to talk about anything that they don't want to with their platforms.
She's saying everybody should stop talking about everything because Israel's a bigger deal. Is that what you want for the world?
That's not what I'm saying. Well, so do you find me more interesting than Israel?
You act like I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what's Sneako?
But you've invested more time into me than Israel.
Who said he had to invest time into researching Israel? Who said that? What is Sneako talking about?
Yeah, I've invested more time into learning about people in my sphere more than a lot of political issues. What's wrong with that?
Because that's not the main issue, because that's less important.
Well, no, it's less important to you. You think it's a top issue.
Well, okay, but you said the issue is the affordability crisis, but you also said you don't know why that is. So you've invested more time into me than what you think is the main issue, which is the affordability crisis.
Israel's number one to him. That's not number one to everybody. It doesn't have to be everybody's number one. There are so many people that are literally down in the weeds of life dealing with everyday problems that Israel isn't even on their radar.
You are advocating for people whilst aligning yourself with people that are going to hurt your folks. That's it.
Yes.
Right? A lot of people in your circle oftentimes perpetuate a lot of anti-black rhetoric, or they say a lot of racist shit, or they say things that's in favor of one group over the other. That's the truth. Their political worldview is one that in which their group benefits and other folks are hurt. That's the people that you surround yourself with a lot of the time. If your political friends got their way, we would have new number one priorities. Because I personally don't really gonna think about housing as much or affordability if I'm gonna be jailed for whatever reason, or if I'm gonna be denied certain opportunities in terms of work because they wanna make sure white folks are in power.
Why there's a debt crisis, student loans, mortgages, the 2008 housing crisis.
This has been frustrating. Jews, everything is the Jews.
The central bank system, this stuff, where the money's going and why this happens, if that's your number one issue. We'll look at the World Economic Forum saying you're not going to be able to own anything. They want us to rent forever. 1% holds so much of the wealth compared to the 99%. Even the 0.1% We should look at who that 1%, that point.
Sure, but I feel like this is a lazy way of dealing with an issue that's multifaceted. I don't believe that the reason why everything is unaffordable is Jews in Israel. But it sounds like you're saying it's just Zionists.
It's like Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he had like the big dartboard and all the red lines. But for Sneako, everything connects back to the Jews. Just like Kanye, just like Myron, just like Nick Fuentes. So you can see the parallels there.
Okay, what? So you don't think that there's other forms of greed involved? You don't think there's a tremendous amount of incompetence? You don't think there's shortages in resources? Like the idea that we have a big problem when it comes to affordability, when it comes to whether or not we have access to food on a cheap scale, and you're just going Jews, it sounds lazy. That's honestly what it sounds. And you're trying to sit here.
That's not what I said.
Sneako is saying exactly that, but he's scared to say it. Just like Abba said, everything he just said weaves all the way back to the Jews. But now that Abba is actually calling it out, like, well, this is what you're saying. He's talking around it again.
That isn't what I said, actually. I explained the Rothschild bank system. I explained how they have connections to Israel. I explained how they got the land, how England sold it to them, and you said you didn't know this and you didn't look it up. I didn't say Jews. I explained specific reasons, and then you said you didn't know.
No, you said
I never said Jews.
You said Zionists. Isn't that what you said?
I said the Rothschild bank system is directly correlated to why that there's an economic problem right now, why things are unaffordable. I said who's in control. You said AI is taking all these jobs. I've described to you who's behind LLMs, who owns ChatGPT, Netanyahu, and saying what he's using AI to benefit. I didn't just say Jews. I'm giving you specific people in charge and things that are happening right now, and you said you didn't know.
Which are connected to the Jews, correct? You're explaining me how, but you're saying essentially it's the Jews, but you're explaining how.
But you just simplified it, and you said just saying Jew, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm giving you specific reasons why this is.
Everything you just said still comes back to exactly what I said, which is that if you look through the thread long enough, you go to Rothschild and their connection to Israel, you talk to this person, and then they talk to Netanyahu, and they go back to Israel. At the end of the day, it all leads back to what? The Jews.
The Jews.
At the end of the thread.
What's your point?
So it is the Jews. That's what you're saying.
What's your point?
You're explaining how, but you're saying it's the Jews.
Abba is literally following the thread of everything that Sneako said to understand what Sneako is saying. And now that he's plainly calling out the big bad, the man that Sneako is talking about, Sneako is acting scared to talk about it. It's so weird. Like, why even bring it up? Why try to chastise Abba for not knowing your conspiracy theory? And then when he's trying to understand your conspiracy theory, now Sneako is backpedaling like he doesn't want to be associated with it.
It's not all Jews. I never said that. I'm saying that Israel has control over this, and this is where tax dollars are going. And there's a specific group of Jews in Israel who are using America as resources, but there's so many Jews who have nothing to do with this.
Okay, so it's not all the Jews. All of it leads back to some of the Jews.
I mean, that's a simple way of describing it, but I would never characterize my perspective like that.
Right, but eventually, if you follow the thread through all the different ones, it leads back to some of the Jews. That's what but you're essentially saying it leads back to the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
No?
Well, I'm following your line of. I'm not even saying that from mine. You said your most important issue is affordability. It was AI and economy, and I gave you two things. And
I just asked a simple question: do you feel like, have you explain it, it leads back to some of the Jews? Because I don't know all these things, and so I'm not going to sit here and argue about the facts about the Rothschilds. So the last thing I was going to leave on is this: do you ever feel like there's a time where you compromise your values to be loyal to people, to maintain a friendship?
Sneako's first big, huge L was when he was taken up for Fresh against Penguin Zero, when he just jumped out the window defending Fresh because Fresh had that dumbass story about having like a threesome or foursome, meeting an NBA player at a bar. It was just like a really stupid story.
Remember when you were defending Fresh, and now that dude's on his podcast trying to put a hit on you? That's crazy, bro. I'm not gonna lie, bro. That's crazy. And I was like, damn. And that same dude is like, it was Sneako. He played Son of the Club. And I just think with that, I'm like, that's crazy.
It's cool that Abba was able to end that on a high note, but it was a really frustrating watch for me. It really felt like 3 hours of asking very direct questions and Sneako like tap dancing around the questions. Sneako really comes off like he has this moral superiority to everybody, that he knows something that everybody else doesn't, that his issues of priority trumps everybody else's, and everybody has to get on the same page with him or else they're not living correct. It just comes off very obnoxious sometimes. You're not going to tell somebody that's struggling to pay bills, that works 2 jobs, and still doesn't make enough money to support their family or even themselves, that there's bigger issues than the affordability crisis. And I think as long as Sneako says he cares about certain things like protecting Islam or his people, his alignment with white supremacy, his alignment with Nick Fuentes and MAGA, America First, the Groypers, will always be a huge contradiction. So it just doesn't make sense. It's a lot of contradictions, a lot of hypocrisy, and you boil roll all that together with some obnoxiousness and moral superiority, and you get Sneako. But shout out to my channel members. Thank you so much for supporting, and thanks for watching. Y'all let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Also, make sure you check out the next video, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes and life stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.